Good morning, students. This is a lecture in continuation to the earlier lectures on the Motor Vehicle Act. So, today's class will talk about on management of emergencies related to transportation of chemicals, which is in the provisions of the Motor Vehicle Act 1988. As a prerequisite to the today's lecture or recapitulations to today's lecture, we must understand what is the real meaning of Motor Vehicle Act, and we must also understand the purpose for which the Motor Vehicle Acts are laid down in the Constitution. We must also understand the Motor Vehicle Act's amendments from 1980 to present. So these are some of the prerequisite knowledge that we must have in our mind before coming to the topic of today. The key objectives of today's lecture is revolving around five concepts. So number one is Central Motor Vehicle Rules 1988. Number two is hazardous goods class labels. Number three is mode of transportation. Number four, need of hazardous material training. And number five is hazard information system. So these are the broad areas which will be covered in the slides to come. This is the CMV, the Central Motor Vehicle Rule 9, which is the educational qualification for the drivers of goods carriages carrying dangerous or the hazardous goods. The educational qualification of that driver says he should be able to read and write one Indian language and English preferably, and also possess a certificate having successfully passed a course consisting of following syllabus and periodicity connected. The period of training should be 3 days for first time, and period of training should be 1 day for every year. So the syllabus that has to be covered by him is the defensive driving questionnaire on the first day, the advanced driving skill and training on the second day, which should have a discussion and the field test training. And number three is the product safety on a third day, wherein he'll be asked on the product information and the emergency procedure. So these are some of the educational qualification requirements for drivers who are carrying dangerous or hazardous materials. Continuation to the previous slide, the Central Motor Vehicle Rule number 129 says the vehicles transporting goods of dangerous or hazardous nature to human life, the drivers in that case shall display a distinct mark of class label appropriate to the type of dangerous goods as specified, whether it is belonging to which class. So that should be mentioned on the goods when they are being transported from one place to another. They shall be equipped with safety equipment for preventing fire, explosion, or escape of hazardous or dangerous goods. And the vehicle or the it has to be equipped with the safety equipment, so that in case of any mishappening, the safety equipment should take care of all those happenings. And the vehicle should be fitted with a technograph, an instrument to record the lapse of running time of the motor vehicle, time speed maintained, acceleration, deceleration, etc., conforming to the BIS specifications. In CMV rule, the Central Motor Vehicle Rule number 129A says the every vehicle which is carrying goods of dangerous or hazardous nature, they shall be fitted with a spark arrestor. In this slide, we'll see some of the Central Motor Vehicle Rule 131, which is the responsibility of the consigner for to make sure that the dangerous or hazardous goods for safe transport of dangerous or hazardous goods. The consigner should ensure the following. Number one, the goods carriage has a valid registration to carry the said goods. The vehicle is equipped with necessary first aid kit, safety equipment, and antidotes as may be necessary to contain any accident. The transporter or owner shall have full and adequate information about the goods being transported. and the driver of the goods carriage is trained in handling the dangers posed during transport of such goods. So all these four points has to be ensured by the consigner, and it is the responsibility of the consigner for safe transport of dangerous or hazardous goods. Every consigner shall supply to the owner full and adequate information about the product being transported. So the CMV rule number 132, which is the responsibility of the owner of the vehicle should ensure that his or her vehicle should have a valid registration so that to carry the goods and it is safe for transportation. So he should ensure that the vehicle should always be equipped with necessary first aid kits, safety equipment, toolbox, antidotes as may be necessary to contain any accident. The owner should satisfy himself that the information given by the consignor is full and accurate in all respects. The owner shall also ensure that the driver is given all the relevant information in writing, which will be given in Annexure 5. The owner and the consignor shall lay down the route for each trip unless directed or permitted otherwise by the police. The owner to ensure that the driver holds a driving license as per the CMV Rule 9. So these are some of the responsibilities of the owner in carrying the goods for the transportation purpose. So in CMV rule number 133, which says the responsibility of the driver, this is a section on responsibility of the driver. He should ensure that the information given to him on Annex 5 is kept in the driver's cabin, and the vehicle while in motion and when it is parked in a place and at all times should be kept safe from any kind of explosion, fire, or any other risk under his supervision or some other competent person above the age of 18 years. So he should make sure that these doesn't happen. So in this slide, you can see CMV rule number 134, where the emergency information panel should be placed on the vehicles. And this is how the emergency information panel looks like. All the dimensions which are measured on left side and bottom right, left, all dimensions are expressed in the millimeter. It is having the class labels. It is having an emergency dial, the hazardous chemicals section, correct technical name, the special advice, if any. So all those kinds of things will be put up in the emergency information panel, and that should be placed in the vehicles itself. So this is a slide which goes to show you the place for fixing emergency information panel. Emergency information panel, all the details that we saw in the last slide. If it is a truck type vehicle, then the emergency information panel can be pasted on the back side, or you can, if it is on the side, then also you can do it, and on the front side also can be done, the class labels if it is a truck. But if it happens to be a tractor or a tanker, then the backside looks like the one which is shown in the picture. The side view and the front view also can be, it's also a place for fixing your emergency information panel. So hazardous goods class labels. The class labels will include explosives, some non-flammable gases, some flammable gases, some poison toxic gases, inflammable liquids, inflammable solids, etc. And here you can see that there are around 15 signs or the class labels, right from explosives to the corrosive elements. And this is how the dashboard or the dashboard signals signs looks like. So we must remember each one of them. The driver must remember each one of them so that he can clearly identify which kind of materials are there in which container. So the need for hazardous materials training is to so that the learning to properly transport the hazardous materials and hazardous waste helps you protect you as well as the public. So this training preparing to transport hazardous materials will provide you with basic information needed to be a safe and effective driver. So hazardous materials training is important to protect people, the environment, and as well as the property as well. All of these are at risk if you violate the hazardous materials regulations. So hazardous materials training is also required by law as per the CMV rule number 9. And these materials training is important to protect your transport driver's license and your job. Both of these are at risk if you violate the regulations. So willful violators are subjected to punishment as per the law. It is vitally important to use emergency information panels on vehicles transporting hazardous materials. At an accident scene, the correct emergency information panels can save lives and protect the environment, in addition to the environmental and health reasons. So the Motor Vehicle Act requires training for all drivers of vehicles used to transport hazardous materials, because most of the hazardous materials, are transported on highways, and most accidents or incidents that involve hazardous materials are caused just by the human error. So this is the hazard information system, the transport emergency card. We call it as TREM card. So it informs the driver and cleaner about the nature of dangerous goods and steps to be taken during emergency. And some important phone numbers are also given in that. So TREM card is very important for a driver to have. So production factory should provide TREM card pertaining to the goods in the vehicle, and the TREM card should be in the vehicle. So emergency information panel, it describes the nature of the goods in the vehicle, showing status, quality, and during emergency, it informs some steps to be taken by other road users and fire engine office. It is exhibited on both sides of the vehicle and at its front and rear. So in summary, we can say that the owner shall ensure to the satisfaction of the consignor that the driver has received adequate instruction and training to enable him to understand the nature of goods being transported by him, the nature of the risks arising out of such goods, precautions he should take while the vehicle is in motion or stationary, and the action he has to take in case of emergency. So all this has to be made sure by the driver and the consignor. So driver to report to the police station about the accident and also inform the owner regarding the accident. So these are some of the references from where you can have a deeper insight into the topic. So thank you for your time and attention.